So joining us now to discuss more is Laura Packard. She's Executive Director of Healthcare Voter and a nationally known healthcare advocate. Thank you so much for joining us today, Laura.
Thank you for having me.
Start by mentioning, of course, I want to start by mentioning the Department of Justice kind of push. Is there much the federal government can do at this point, even though the Supreme Court has already said this law can go into effect? Women in Texas are unable, people in Texas are unable to obtain abortion care at this point.
Well, we'll find out today. But as I'm not a lawyer, I won't go too much into the details of the DOJ's strategy. I wish that Texas legislators would focus on something they knew something about, unlike women's health care. Because right now, over 1 million Texans don't have health care because Texas refuses to expand Medicaid to cover its poorest people. And that's something that Texas legislators could be doing something about right now instead of attacking women's health.
So I'm glad that you mentioned the Texas legislature, because one of the things that obviously has come up a lot recently is that Governor Abbott has been speaking about this, and he's been asked about it a lot. And he said this to a reporter recently about rape and incest. Take a listen.
Let's make something very clear. Rape is a crime, and Texas will work tirelessly to make sure that we eliminate all rapists from the streets of Texas.
So yes, the logic here, Laura, is that they're going to get rid of rape, and then they won't need abortions for people who have been raped and do not want to carry pregnancies as a result of rape or incest. So I need you to address this line of logic, because it doesn't really square up with reality.
Well, if Governor Abbott was going to do something to stop rape, you think he might focus on the over 6,000 untested rape kits in Texas today. But he would rather grandstand for headlines and attack women's health care rather than actually doing something to stop rape.
At this point, you know, we really are focused a lot on the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court did not rule on the merits of the Texas law. They are just allowing it to stay in place. And that's different from what we've seen in years past. So already that's a little bit different. But really the main case we need to watch is that Mississippi case that's coming up this fall for arguments. I kind of want to dig in a little bit about the fate of Roe versus Wade, not to ask you to tell me whether it's going to be struck down or not, but what a post-Roe world would look like in this country. I feel like we're kind of getting a sense of that already in Texas.
Absolutely. And Texas is what the future could look like unless we do something about it. Some states, like my home state, Michigan, have laws on the books to make abortion illegal. So we can't go back. Too many people depend on us defending a woman's right to choose.
Michigan is really interesting to me. I was doing some research yesterday, and I saw that the governor, Gretchen Whitmer, asked for lawmakers. She has a Republican legislature to deal with in that state. She asked for lawmakers to overturn that ban should Roe be struck down. And I think that this is a case where you see a bluer state. I would say Michigan is a blue state, with the exception of 2016, a blue state that has this old law that doesn't really align with their values now. This is going to come up for some of those Midwestern states, Wisconsin being another one. Are we going to see states where abortion becomes illegal and there isn't the political legislature in place to make it legal again, but where there is more of a liberal voting base?
Yes, we could see this, because states like Michigan and Wisconsin have Democratic governors, but they're controlled by Republican legislatures, radical right-wing Republican legislatures. And due to gerrymandering, it could be more of the same, even past the elections next year. So even though Michiganders and Wisconsinites may support a woman's right to choose, their radical right-wing legislature is holding them back.
This is one of those times when it becomes really obvious, right, that state elections are perhaps more important than federal ones, right? The federal government is not going to be able to do much with its very close Democratic majorities in both the House and Senate to codify Roe v. Wade, but the states are taking a lot of action. Is this a time when you know, as someone who advocates for healthcare voters, do you want to tell them, hey, pay attention to your local elections because they have this kind of immediate impact?
Absolutely. Who you vote for school board will determine whether your kids are safe or whether there is an anti-mask faction controlling whether your kids are protected at school. And whether you vote for local state legislative candidates that support progressive viewpoints will directly control whether you can get an abortion in your state if Roe versus Wade falls. So it is very, very critical that you vote all the way down the ballot.
The last question I have for you here is about the Biden administration. We know that President Biden is a very devout Catholic, and his position that he is committed to protecting women's rights when it comes to abortion access has put him at odds with his religion. I'm not going to ask you about religion, just politics today. But what can and should the administration do beyond just the president saying that, yes, I support a woman's right to make her own decisions about her body? What action do they need to put behind it?
Well, I think we're seeing the Biden administration take action today with the DOJ moving to sue. But what we really need is for a law to pass Congress and for President Biden to sign it. And unfortunately, until we abolish the filibuster, we don't have the votes in the Senate. So even if the House voted today to protect a woman's right to choose, it would stop in the Senate because there would not be 60 votes. So we need to eliminate the filibuster to move forward.
Laura, I'm most interested to see if the pressure on the filibuster becomes larger than it's ever been because of this Texas law. Laura Packard is Executive Director of Healthcare Voter